It's called Bleeding Heart by Christina Shon. I woke up in a hospital bed, staring at a blank white wall. My eyes scanning the room for a clock. "How are you feeling?" said a kind female voice to my left. She was a nurse I hadn't seen before. "Good," I said, tired. My voice sounded weak and raspy. "Well, you rest up as much as you need," she said, and tucked the sheets around me. I knew where I was. A different room in the hospital. The last thing I remembered was being wheeled into the operating room, dressed in a hospital gown and cap. The nurse who had wheeled me in had helped me onto the operating table and began introducing me to all the staff in the room. She pointed at each person, calling out their names while they continued preparing for surgery. No one looked up or stopped what they were doing. It seemed a little awkward to be making introductions. Perhaps it was just a courtesy, since they would soon be handling my naked body while I lay unconscious. The anesthesiologist placed a mask next to my face and said, "I'm going to leave this right here. Just relax." I closed my eyes. This is a story of a surgery, an ultrasound, a polyp, and a lover. Of cutting out a part of my body, of holding on and letting go. It all started one month when I got my period. Not only was I bleeding more than usual, but it was the second time that I'd gotten my period that month. After several days of heavy bleeding, I remembered sitting in the shower, too weak to stand, watching clots of blood flow out from between my legs and into the drain. How could I manage childbirth if I could barely manage my period? My doctor referred me to a specialist. She said that I might have a polyp in my uterus, but would need to have an ultrasound to identify it. She prescribed a hormone to stop the bleeding. During this time, I was seeing a guy named Jack. He and I weren't exactly dating. You could say we were on again, off again, but never officially on. Of course, I was in love with him, but I convinced myself that we could be friends. It's complicated. When I first met Jack, I sized him up, thinking he wasn't my type at all. He's a doctor and a bit too skinny and serious for his age. He spent the entire day talking about his ex and how batshit crazy she is. Aren't they all? Even though I was underwhelmed with the date, I had slipped my hand into his as he walked me to my car. I leaned over and gave him a brief but sweet peck on the lips. I could see that he was taken aback by my boldness. I caught a glimpse of him in my rearview mirror, standing in the spot where I had left him, watching me as I drove off. I texted Jack about my GYN appointment to solicit free medical advice. He said that I should probably expect to have surgery, a common outpatient procedure. "You'll be fine," he said, reassuring me. "Let me know how the ultrasound goes." Downstairs in radiology, I scheduled the ultrasound. The front desk gave me a handout with directions on how to prepare for it. In dark, bold letters, all caps, the introductions read, "Drink 40 ounces of water and do not urinate for 1 hour before your appointment." Then the guy took out a neon yellow highlighter and ran it across the same line. What a weird set of instructions, I thought. My sister had a baby only a few years prior, and I had never heard about the full bladder with an ultrasound rule. Pregnancy truly is a secret sorority of intelligence and experiences that no one else knows anything about. On the day of the ultrasound, I outlined a project plan. I would measure out 40 ounces of water in a water bottle. At exactly 1 hour and 5 minutes before my appointment, I used the restroom. Then I drank all the water as quickly as I could. After about 20 minutes, I knew I was in trouble. I really had to pee. I left the office to drive to the lab. I can do this, I thought to myself. Denial. Denial is the first stage of grief and loss. Then, anger. "This is ridiculous," I grumbled smugly. "What a joke. Is this what modern medicine looks like?" Then I directed it inwardly. "Come on, woman," I screeched at myself. You're a grown adult. Intense pressure was building up around my pelvis just below the lower abdomen, and I could feel a cold sweat surfacing on my forehead. I started bargaining. Maybe if I pee a little. When I get there, just halfway. Then I rallied. That poor turn. You'll make it. Just hold on a little longer. I pleaded on with myself, but I just knew I wasn't gonna make it. Acceptance. The final stage. I parked the car in the hospital lot and slowly, resignedly, hobbled to the lobby. I had 10 minutes before my appointment, and I was in unbearable pain, both physically and mentally, tears rolling down my face as I sat on the toilet and emptied my bladder. There were tears of disappointment and fear, but there were also tears of wonderful relief. I felt utterly disgusted and pleased with myself at the same time. It was complicated. I sat in the lobby, waiting to be called for my appointment, shaking. The technician, a peppy woman with pink scrubs, greeted me. So, now we're going to use your full bladder as a window to look into your uterus, she explains as she outlined a square box with her 2 index fingers. The look on my face must have said it all. Oh, did you forget to drink your water? She asked, concerned. I put both hands to my face like one just screamed, painting, and confessed, I'm sorry, I just peed. The technician was somehow able to complete the ultrasound exam. Then my surgery was scheduled. I called Jack to give him an update, and we ended up making a date to go dancing. It was a dreamy evening, and I again began to entertain thoughts of being together. We left the club and ran through the streets of the city, holding hands and dodging cars like reckless teenagers. As he drove me home, we started talking like we always do about anything and everything. Jack began to tell me about someone new he was seeing, and previously, I would have done the same. I would have commiserated with him about the anguishes of dating and how we loved each other, but we wanted different things, and that's why it would never work with us. But tonight, I couldn't. I couldn't repeat the lines of that script anymore. My heart, I knew that I wanted him, and he wanted something else. So instead of repeating my line, I wept inconsolably. A deluge of plump, wet tears rolled down my face, one after the next. I cried with such deep despair, like a whimpering child, like a hurt animal. At first, Jack tried to console me, then pleaded, then gave up. He drove in silence until he got to my place and waited while I tried to breathe through my halting sniffles. My heart was bleeding out. All of my energy, my life's blood. And to be honest, it felt really good. After all those months of trying to keep together, to hold on, to hope, I could finally let go. I felt a wave of wonderful relief. I felt a little bit like, well, like peeing. On the moment of my surgery, I swallowed 2 little pills that would induce contractions in my uterus. As my roommate drove me to the hospital, I could feel spasms of clenching pain and cramping in my abdomen. It's like you're going into labor, my roommate said cheerfully. We're taking you to the hospital to give birth to your polyp. Actually, it's more like aborting it, I thought to myself cynically. But I didn't think my ultra-religious Catholic roommate would appreciate that sentiment, so I smiled meekly and nodded. This would probably be the closest I would get to experiencing having a baby of my own. I placed my hands over my belly and tried to let the moment impress upon me. The nurse greeted me at the door and wheeled me to the operating room, and that was it. This little polyp that my body had created, that had been the source of so much pain, would soon be cut from me, and then I could heal.